Navigating the legal world can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. The Indiana Lawyer Podcast is here to help you understand the laws impacting your life, work, and community. Whether you're a legal professional, a business owner, or someone who wants to know how Indiana law shapes the world around you, this podcast is for you. We're here to bring you clarity and insights like no one else can. This podcast is brought to you by Taft, today's modern law firm.
For this week's episode, we're talking firework laws ahead of the 4th of July holiday. I'm joined by John Brooke of Muncie-based law firm Brooke and Struble. Since 1984, Brooke has represented clients in several legal matters, but perhaps most prominently in matters of firework law.
Taft, today's modern law firm. At Taft, we cultivate a highly respectful, transparent workplace that fosters creativity, teamwork, inclusion, and diversity. We couple our culture with a client-first approach, rewarding lawyers who understand their clients' goals and work to deliver success. Taft, the modern law firm. To learn more, visit taftlaw.com.
Mr. Brooke, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So to start out, I know we talked about this just previously, but your law firm's been active for a few decades now. So what led you to establish your own law firm to start with?
I got out of law school. I worked for a law firm that I had done some work for when I was in college up here at Ball State. I worked for them, and then I saw an opportunity to grow the practice I wanted to grow, that I thought at the time I wanted to grow. That was before the fireworks became prevalent. And so I moved to a father-son law firm and then went on my own a few years later.
Nice. Awesome. So you've always been Muncie-based in your law practice?
Yes. My office has always been in Muncie. Yes.
Awesome. And so I read that your firm is the only one in the U.S. that spends a significant amount of time representing only the fireworks industry. Can you tell me how you got into fireworks law to begin with?
It was after the 4th of July one year. I think I was dating my wife at the time, or we had just gotten married, and a good friend of hers, Richard Shields at North Central Industries, had a fireworks company that he was working with his dad at. We were at a local watering hole having dinner. I was sitting next to Richard. We were talking, and he started complaining about the number of bad checks he'd gotten at these fireworks tents back in the mid to late 80s. I was not long out of law school, and I was willing to do anything for food. So I said, hey, I'll collect those checks for you. And so he gave me a bunch of checks to collect. I collected most of them. And then we hit it off. He started asking me questions about the legislature because he was having problems in the legislature. I'd served as an intern in the Senate when I was in college. And then he invited me to a fireworks convention up in Chicago, which I thought he wanted a drinking buddy, which Chicago's a great drinking town. I was happy to go with him there. And when I get there, he introduces me to guys that he's friends with and does business with all across the country. And every one of them said the same exact thing was, we use lawyers all the time. Our biggest gripe about lawyers is we spend half of our money teaching them about the business, the other half about the case. So I thought if I could learn the business, then I could help these guys. So I went about learning the business from the ground up.
Interesting. So you got starting in Chicago, that hands-on experience from the other side of the laws, would you say?
Talked to these guys, found out what their issues were, why they were using lawyers all the time. And it was for a whole myriad of things that were fireworks company based. Like they would do a purchase agreement to buy a competitor out, but it had to take into consideration fireworks. There were injury cases that they were being involved in. They had administrative stuff that they were being involved with. And it all centered around understanding what the fireworks were, how they acted, so I could then work within the confines of the law to help them out.
Could you just kind of describe to me what you would say your firm's specialties are within the realm of firework law?
We represent a number of fireworks entities with regard to administrative matters. I do a lot of ATF license regulation work where they get crossways with the ATF, and then I defend them on ATF revocations, help them get their licenses, I've got some OSHA cases, a lot of administrative law stuff. We also do a significant number of products liability defense. A firework blows up, needs to blame somebody for it, so they want to blame the firework device that are made in China for it. So we defend fireworks companies for for their insurers on product liability claims. I've done a lot of lobbying, drafting legislation, dealing with the regulatory matters, helping write some codes and whatnot for guys all over the country.
Interesting. And specifically speaking in Indiana, can you give me a brief overview of the laws Indiana has specifically surrounding like the manufacturing and selling of fireworks in the state?
Manufacturing doesn't really occur very much in the US. There's a few manufacturers that make display fireworks, and there's a few in Indiana that make display fireworks. That's not the consumer stuff, the stuff that you buy to shoot off in your backyard. The manufacturing is regulated by the state and by the federal government, by the ATF, and they have to be in certain locations, usually away from population. But when it comes to consumer fireworks, Indiana was the first state in the country to change the rules and allow all types of consumer fireworks, aerial and explosive, to be purchased by Hoosiers for their use in their backyard.
Okay, interesting. And so since a lot of some of the fireworks aren't manufactured here, where do we typically import these fireworks from that are sold in the state?
80 to 95% of them are imported from the People's Republic of China. There are some that are coming into the state that within the last 3 years have been manufactured in Cambodia. Some are manufactured in Brazil now. A few are being manufactured in Mexico, although that's difficult with all the issues going on in Mexico right now. But some of the display fireworks are made in Europe. The stuff that like the city of Indianapolis or the city of Muncie or some big entity puts on, some of them are made in France, Italy, Spain, as well as Japan.
Okay, interesting. And then you said that some of them were the kind of consumer, smaller based ones are made in Indiana. Where in Indiana are those manufactured?
Any consumer fireworks manufactured in Indiana. We have some display fireworks. We've got I think there are a couple people that are doing some close proximity, which is stuff used at concerts and whatnot, but those aren't generally available to the public.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, in terms of the use of fireworks in the state, are there like certain fireworks that consumers can't use or buy here specifically in Indiana?
They can't purchase the display fireworks, the big ones, the 3-inch, 6-inch shells that display companies have, but they can purchase any of the legal consumer fireworks that are approved by the Consumer Product Safety Commission.
So, those kind of like the sparklers, the snappers, things like that on the smaller scale?
Sparklers, snappers, firecrackers, bottle rockets, Roman candles, cake devices, missiles, you name it.
Gotcha. And then I feel like a kind of a hot topic is, or I guess point of discussion is people transporting certain fireworks over state lines to use in other places. Are there any types of fireworks that aren't necessarily allowed in Indiana that are allowed in like neighboring states like Illinois or Ohio that people can transport over state lines?
It allows all consumer fireworks to be purchased and used in Indiana. Our law is a lot more liberal than parts of Illinois. Ohio allows consumer fireworks to be purchased and then taken out of the state. Michigan and Kentucky both allow all consumer fireworks. They followed Indiana's model several years ago as well.
Okay. And when did that kind of take place in Indiana where we're a little bit more liberal with fireworks?
2006 is when the legislature amended the state law to, in essence, right a wrong or hypocrisy that was going on because Hoosiers were buying fireworks all over the place. They were buying them in Indiana. They were buying them in other states like Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, bringing them to Indiana and shooting them off. And so the legislature decided that they would allow fireworks and impose a public safety fee on the people buying them, which helps fund firefighting and firefighter training.
Would you say that firework laws tend to change often year by year, or have they been pretty steady the last few years?
Up until about 2006, the fireworks laws were really pretty stagnant all across the country. Nobody had really changed any of the fireworks laws in their state, even though reality was people were using fireworks no matter where they were, whether it's Illinois, which hasn't had changed since the 30s, Michigan, a lot of those places. 2006, Indiana opened up, allowed all consumer fireworks, which set the tone for a lot of the states in east of the Mississippi to open up. North Carolina started allowing some fireworks, and then they opened up to all consumer fireworks. Iowa in 2004 or 5, Kentucky and Michigan both in about 2010, West Virginia. There are a number of states that followed Indiana's lead and opened up their states to allowing more consumer fireworks. And they also used Indiana's public safety fee that generated income for firefighters and firefighter training and fire departments. All those have followed Indiana's model.
Interesting. And what was the catalyst for Indiana being so proactive and the leading force in those laws?
The fireworks industry has been fighting with the fire marshal for a number of years. We set up and operated a number of areas where people could buy their fireworks and bring them to the location to be shot off. Not many people were doing that. And it was just the fact that Indiana recognized that people were going to use fireworks no matter what the law said and what the penalties were, and they were going to use them in their backyard. So the fireworks industry worked with the state fire marshal and the Fire Chiefs Association, who we'd always been bitter rivals before, to create this structure where all Class C fireworks could be shot off. The state would keep track of the injury statistics at the beginning in 2006 of people injured by consumer fireworks, and the state would generate income to help with firefighters, firefighter training to combat fires that may have been started by fireworks. The state stopped compiling injury statistics about 10 years ago because there weren't that many in Indiana. It was just a waste of time. But they still collect the fee that are generated about $3.5 to $4 million a year on public safety fees that Hoosiers pay to help keep the fire departments going.
Post 2006, I guess, what laws have changed? Is there anything specifically that stands out within the laws post 2006 that apply to fireworks?
In 2008 or 9, I think it was, the legislature, under some pressure from some local communities, added a provision that fireworks can only be shot off during certain days of the year around the 4th of July and around New Year's. And they allowed local governments to opt in to preventing fireworks from being shot off at any time other than around the 4th of July and New Year's. So that was a concession that local government wanted to have because they were having problems with people shooting off fireworks in May, June, September, and that sort of thing. And there's protected days that they can't restrict fireworks, and there's the rest of the year they can.
Okay. And what kind of, I guess, holidays are now included in that legislation that have parameters surrounding them?
All right, and New Year's Day.
Okay. Is there anything I think Memorial Day might be another one that is maybe more inclined to use fireworks. Is there anything surrounding that?
No, that's not one of the protected days. There are a lot of communities that haven't adopted this provision to prohibit fireworks use. People will still shoot them off around, and Labor Day is also another big day that people use fireworks. And so there's nothing in the law that protects those days. People just do it, and communities complain about it, but they don't make any arrests, as far as I know.
Yeah. Do you anticipate any forthcoming laws in the next few years? And I guess, what are those? Are there any problems that you see right now in the industry that could use guidance on?
From the industry standpoint, no, we feel that we're regulated enough. I think that some issues as to clarification of some of the policies, clarification of the building code, where can you put a store, what kind of structure can you put a store in, maybe some clarification about qualifications for pyrotechnicians themselves. We don't have very good rules when it comes to pyrotechnicians. Anybody can, if their fire chief approves them, anybody can shoot off fireworks, which is not a good thing. Pyrotechnicians should have some training and skill like I do. I'm a pyrotechnician. I shoot off fireworks for the hometown that I live outside, Albany. I've conducted their show and shot their show for 25 years.
Oh, wow. Did you do any training personally to become a pyrotechnician and do that for your community?
I did. I went through the Pyrotechnicians Guild International, PGI's training course at a fireworks convention. I've also attended 2 or 3 other training courses that some of my clients do to help train their pyrotechnicians. I've become a trainer myself, and so I can train other pyrotechnicians.
Another kind of major discussion nationwide is we're always talking about tariffs and how those are affecting what we're buying and selling. Is there anything that stands out to you about how these tariffs are affecting the firework industry specifically?
The tariffs have been very substantial and really hurt the business. When the tariffs were in place, I was having discussions with some of my clients that a container that would have $40,000 worth of goods was now costing $120,000, $130,000 in tariffs alone, not including the shipping costs, which are usually about $20,000, $25,000. So a $70,000 container with shipping turned into a $225,000 container. A lot of people that were importing 1 or 2 containers stopped because they just couldn't afford it. So there were a lot of fireworks that were sitting over in China that hadn't been shipped to the U.S. because orders were canceled. Now everybody's scrambling to try and get as many orders in and get fireworks delivered this time of year in case the tariffs go back in place. So it's been a upsetting time to a lot of the guys because they don't know where the tariffs are going to go, and they're paying the price, and they can't raise all their prices to meet all the tariffs.
And between, I guess, now, 4th of July and New Year's Eve being the big 2 holidays that use fireworks, out of the 2, which would you say is your busiest time of year for work?
July.
Yeah.
Starting about the middle of May till about the 4th of July, I deal with issues not only in Indiana, but all over the country. My practice used to be incredibly busy through the 4th of July. It's expanded now, and I help the company stay open or get open.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask, when it is this crunch time where we're now less than a month out from the holiday, what, I guess, matters are you dealing with day to day in terms of getting ready for the 4th of July?
It's only 18 days to the 4th of July now. My clients always remind me how many more days left before the 4th of July. So what's going to happen now are issues concerning whether stores stay open, if there's issues that they have in following Indiana's rules about how many fireworks can be in a store and fixing those, correcting or addressing building code issues in other parts of the country. I've got 2 cases, one in Iowa, one in Florida, dealing with building code issues right now. And that's where I am. There's ATF inspections going on with some of my display companies, this is their busiest time of the year, and they certainly don't need people coming in to want them to stop their business, stop packing their shows and getting them ready for the 4th of July so they can do a count. And that's disconcerting to them. So I feel a lot of phone calls in that regard. I just got some other information that I can share. I know that depending on the part of the country, a big issue that has popped up in the past, it's not really an issue this year, is drought. There are certain parts of the country will be in a drought situation, which prevents people from buying fireworks or governments wanting to impose restrictions on fireworks sales and use. So I've dealt with that a lot in the last 10 years. One thing I've noticed in the business is that before the weather didn't really matter, but the weather's become an important and big topic with fireworks guys. They act like a bunch of farmers. They complain about the weather, whether it's too hot, too cold, too rainy, that sort of thing. Because Indiana went through a drought in 2012 that did some serious damage to the fireworks business, put several guys out of business because they'd ordered their stuff, they couldn't sell it. And they have to pay for it after the 4th of July. And if you've got nobody buying it, you can't pay for it. The weather was a interesting topic that's popped up in the last 10 years or so that nobody really thinks about.
What would you say 2012 versus now? Are we still dealing with drought issues? What does, I guess, the industry look like post that severe year?
Industry always remembers 2012 and has changed a lot of their buying habits after 2012. They used to buy for 2-3 years at a time. And now they don't do that because they're always afraid that next year could be a drought and they couldn't afford to pay for their goods. So they've cut back on a lot of their long-term buying plans to protect against a drought. They're interested in checking the weather forecast to try and determine where we are. They do a lot of rain dances and praying for rain in the month of June. Hopefully that they can get enough moisture that they can sell, but not too much moisture that prevents people from getting out and buying fireworks and using them.
All right, Mr. Brooke, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time and your insight into this industry.
Thank you very much. Thanks for bringing it to light. And I have a great job. It's taken me all over the world, actually. I've been to a lot of the manufacturers all over the world. It's been interesting.
That's awesome. I love that. That's so cool. And happy 4th of July. I hope the rest of the lead up, the countdown to it goes well.